For centuries, the city of Troy shimmered on the edge of imagination, etched into the collective memory of Western civilization, not through maps or monuments, but through the immortal words of Homer, whose epic poem, the Iliad, captured the drama of gods and mortals, heroes and kings, all converging in a brutal 10-year siege, sparked by the abduction of the legendary beauty Helen, Queen of Sparta, by Paris, Prince of Troy. An act of passion and hubris that supposedly summoned the full wrath of the Greek world and led to one of the most iconic wars in literary history. A tale passed down through generations, taught in schools, romanticized in art, and woven into the very fabric of ancient and modern storytelling. Yet for much of recorded history, Troy was considered a fable, a glorious fiction crafted by poets, a symbol rather than a place, until the late 19th century, when a determined, eccentric, and controversial German businessman named Heinrich Schliemann followed a blend of Homeric geography and unorthodox methodology to the northwestern edge of Anatolia, modern-day Turkey, where he began an excavation at a site known locally as Hisarlik. And what he unearthed would shake the foundations of archaeology and breathe startling new life into one of history's most enduring legends. For buried beneath layers of earth were the crumbling remains of multiple cities, at least 9 major settlements stacked atop one another like pages in a ruined book, each representing a phase in the long, violent, and complex history of a city that many now accept was indeed the historical basis for ancient Troy. And though the true story is far messier, more human, and more mysterious than the Homeric epics would suggest, the discoveries at Hisarlik revealed a city of immense age and significance, with fortification walls, gates, towers, artifacts, weapons, and pottery that traced a continuous occupation stretching back over 4,000 years, from the early Bronze Age to the Roman period, transforming Troy from a poetic symbol into a tangible reality carved into the landscape of Western Anatolia. And while Schliemann's methods were crude, he blasted through layers with dynamite and likely destroyed invaluable historical contexts, his instincts were hauntingly accurate, for in the ruins of what is now called Troy 6 and 7, dating roughly from 1700 to 1200 BCE, archaeologists found a city that matched Homer's descriptions in size, location, fortification, and evidence of a catastrophic event, possibly war or earthquake, that may well have inspired the memory of Troy's dramatic fall. And over the decades that followed, teams of international scholars refined and expanded Schliemann's work, uncovering further clues that painted a picture of a wealthy, multicultural trade hub strategically located between Europe and Asia, controlling access to the Dardanelles and thriving on maritime commerce, a city with sophisticated urban planning, impressive engineering, and enough power to attract both admiration and envy from neighboring powers such as the Hittites, Mycenaeans, and later the Greeks. And tablets from Hittite archives discovered elsewhere in Anatolia referred to a place called Wilusa and a king named Alexandru, names that scholars now link to Ilios, an alternate name for Troy, and Alexandros, another name for Paris, suggesting that the Trojan War may have had roots in real diplomatic tensions, economic rivalries, and regional power struggles of the late Bronze Age, even if the divine interventions and larger-than-life heroes were poetic embellishments rather than historical facts. And the story deepens further when one examines the archaeological record of Troy 6, a city of towering stone walls, watchtowers, and noble houses, abruptly destroyed by an unknown cataclysm around 1250 BCE, followed by Troy 7a, a hastily rebuilt and much more modest settlement that also shows signs of violent destruction. Burnt layers, weaponry, mass graves, and storage jars crammed with supplies as if the residents were preparing for siege, paralleling the grim fate described by Homer and hinting at a long, protracted conflict, whether mythic or mundane, that left a lasting cultural scar across the eastern Mediterranean world. And as more layers of Troy were unearthed, From the humble early settlements of Troy the Fair to the grand Roman-era city of Troy, 9 that became a pilgrimage site in classical antiquity, the notion of Troy as a living, breathing city took shape, not as a mere backdrop for myth, but as a real place where people lived, loved, fought, traded, and died, where kings ruled and merchants bargained, where cultures collided and legends were born. And this convergence of myth and reality fascinates scholars and storytellers alike. For few sites in the world exist at the intersection of history, archaeology, a symbol of the eternal interplay between myth and memory, fact and fable, the seen and the suspected, a city reborn through archaeology and imagination alike, continuing to yield its secrets to those who dig, not just with shovels, but with the eyes of those who dare to see the past alive within the earth, whispering its truths through shattered walls, buried treasures, and the haunting silence of what once was.